Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles. I'm not really sure when it started. There wasn't a big fight, no cheating, no sudden blow-up. Just a slow drift, less talking, more silence, more routines, fewer conversations that meant anything. I chalked it up to life work, stress fatigue. It happens to everyone, right? I'm Colin, I'm 36, I've been married to Ara for 8 years. No kids, no major drama. If you met us at a dinner party, you'd probably think we were one of those stable couples, and for a while we were. About 2 months ago, AA suggested we try Koo's therapy. She brought it up gently at the right moment over dinner, nothing tense going on. I just think it would be good to check in with each other more, she said, setting down her fork. Things feel kind of flat lately. I'm feeling close. I looked at her, then really looked at her. She wasn't upset, just thoughtful. I nodded, setting my glass down. Yeah, I admit it. I've been feeling that too. It actually felt like a good sign that she brought it up. Instead of bottling things, she already had someone in mind, a therapist named Natalie. A few of my coworkers recommended her. She said she specializes in relationships. Okay, I agreed. Let's do it. Natalie's office was small, cozy with a couple of overstuffed chairs and a muted color scheme. The first few sessions were what I expected talking about: habits, communication, expectations. AA did most of the talking. That was fine with me. I listened, I answered when asked. But after the third session, I started noticing something off. It wasn't the therapy itself. It was the way AA spoke different, more polished, almost scripted, like she was reading from something she'd rehearsed. She used words I'd never heard her say in our entire relationship, things like managing narratives, emotional instability, perceived intimidation, and I wasn't doing anything different. I was showing up, listening, being honest. One time in therapy, I asked a simple question, something like, "Can you give me an example of when you felt that way?" I thought it was a fair ask. I wasn't being sarcastic or dismissive. I genuinely wanted to understand. AA stiffened immediately. Her expression tightened, and she turned to Natalie instead of answering me. "This is what I mean," she said, exhaling sharply every time I open up. He interrogates me. That was news to me. I glanced at Natalie, expecting some sort of mediation, but she just nodded, jotting something down in her notebook. I felt like I'd missed a step. Interrogate since when was asking for an example? Interrogation. Things at home started to shift. After that, not in an obvious dramatic way, just small things, subtle. The way AA would frame conversations felt off. She started asking strange leading questions. Have you ever felt like breaking something during an argument? The first time she asked, I frowned. What no? Why? She shrugged, just curious. Another time, would you say you've ever tried to control a discussion before? I looked up from my laptop. What does that even mean? I mean, do you ever steer a conversation on purpose? Make sure it goes a certain way? I think everyone does, to some extent. I said carefully, that's just talking. She hummed, nodding like she was filing my answer away for later at first. Figured she'd been reading something online, maybe listening to one of those relationship podcasts. I even thought it might be part of therapy, self-reflection, whatever. But then I found the mic. It was a Tuesday afternoon. We had just gotten back from grocery shopping. I was unloading bags from her car when I noticed the passenger seat had been pushed forward. One of the bags had tipped over, and while I was picking up a box of cereal, I saw it, a small black device tucked between the seat rails, a tiny red light blinking. I picked it up, turned it over in my hand. Voice recorder battery powered, running for a second. I just stared at it, my mind catching up to what I was holding. Then I walked inside. Ara was at the counter unloading a bag of vegetables. I held up the recorder. You dropped this, I said. She turned, looked at it, and for the briefest moment, just a flicker. Her face went blank, like she had to remember what I was holding. Then just as quickly she smiled. Can't be too careful these days, she said lightly. Then she turned back to the groceries like nothing had happened. I stood there gripping the recorder, waiting for her to say something more. An explanation, a joke, anything, but she didn't. And I didn't say another word either. I just started paying more attention, because if she was collecting information, I needed to know exactly what she was collecting and why. From that moment on, I watched more than I spoke in therapy. I started noticing patterns, phrases. AA repeated words that didn't sound like her descriptions of our interactions, that felt clinical, rehearsed. I don't feel emotionally safe. He has a pattern of defensiveness when I express discomfort. The first time she said something like that, I almost interrupted. When have I ever made you feel unsafe? But I didn't. I just sat there listening. My hands folded in my lap. She would pause after certain lines, like she wanted them to land, like she was waiting for Natalie to nod and scribble something down in her notepad, which she always did. I stayed quiet most of the time, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I didn't know how to respond to a version of our marriage that didn't resemble anything I recognized at home. It got worse. AA kept initiating conversations that felt staged, like she was following a script. I started feeling like I was being pushed toward an edge, baited. She'd bring up things she knew I didn't like talking about. My dad was never a great father. I admitted once after she pressed me on why I didn't call him much. She tilted her head, watching me closely. So would you say you have unresolved anger issues? I frowned. No, I just don't have much to say. Damn? She sighed, leaned back in her chair. You go quiet a lot when things get tense, even now. See that silence? Right there. That's emotional suppression. I just nodded, saying nothing. One night I came home earlier than usual. As I walked into the kitchen, I noticed AA by the window carefully, propping her phone up against the sill. The camera was facing the kitchen table. What are you doing? I asked. She turned, smiling like nothing was strange. Oh, filming a recipe demo for Claire. She wanted to see how I make that garlic butter sauce. I looked at the counter. No ingredients, no prep work, just a bowl of soup in the microwave. She wasn't cooking something in me. Went cold. That's when I called the lawyer. I didn't want to believe it, but I needed to know, could she be prepping for a divorce, trying to build a case against me? The answer was, yes, Birgit. My lawyer didn't even look surprised when I explained everything. This isn't uncommon, she said, flipping open a notepad. It's called therapy documentation. One person in a marriage pretending to work on things while secretly manufacturing evidence for court. I exhaled slowly. So what do? Has she filed anything yet? Not yet? Then you still have control of the timeline. Birgit leaned forward, tapping her pen against the desk. Here's what I need you to do. Start collecting your own documentation. Don't retaliate. Don't call her out. Just watch. Write things down, record, but only legally. I nodded, and if I'm in a state where both parties need to consent to being recorded, Birgit smiled. You're not? I already checked. I started recording my end of every therapy session, just in case Birgit told me to get everything in writing, appointments, texts. Anything that could paint a clearer picture of what was happening. Start screenshotting, she said. That's when I realized something strange. AA had shifted most of our conversations to text. She was saying things over messages that she used to say out loud. Emotional things, accusatory things, stuff that didn't need to be written down, unless she wanted it. Time-stamped, I don't feel safe when you raise your voice. I stared at my phone. I hadn't raised my voice in months. I need you to acknowledge how you've disrespected me. I scrolled up. I hadn't said anything even close to disrespectful. It was like she was building a paper trail, like she was trying to construct a situation that hadn't happened, at least not yet. One night, while she was out on a walk to clear her head, I sat down at the shared desktop in the study. We rarely used it anymore, but it was still logged into her email. I didn't go digging. I didn't have to. There was a draft email already open, addressed to Natalie. I hesitated, then skimmed the words. Maybe next time we can focus on Colin's need to dominate conversations. Can we address how he avoids accountability if he reacts poorly to these prompts? Maybe we can explore how that reinforces the cycle of emotional volatility. It wasn't a request, it was a setup. My chest felt tied, but my hands were steady as I took. A screenshot backed it up, closed the computer. Then I went to bed like normal. I didn't say a word when she got home. Didn't change my tone when I asked how her walk was. She smiled, gave me the same answer as always. It helped. I nodded and went back to reading, acting like I hadn't just seen proof of what I'd suspected for weeks after that. Everything clicked into place. She wasn't just trying to reframe our issues. She was building a file, a case, something she could present later and say, "Look, see, I tried." He wouldn't change. She didn't want reconciliation. She wanted control of the story. Fine, I'd give her one, just not the one she was writing. I changed the way I showed up in therapy. I became the ideal patient, reflective, curious, open. I asked thoughtful questions, gave introspective answers. I admitted faults, even ones I wasn't convinced were real. I nodded when I was supposed to breathe deeply when tension arose. I did the work. Natalie noticed you're making progress. Colin, she smiled, scribbling something in her notepad. AA hated it. She came into each session with a clear script, an issue she wanted to push, a narrative she expected Natalie to affirm. But when I responded calmly, when I didn't, fight back, it threw her off. "You're doing this performance calm thing again," she snapped one afternoon. Arms crossed tightly. "That's not how you act at home?" I tilted my head, offering a gentle smile. "I'm sorry it feels that way. I'm just trying to stay." Grounded, her lips pressed into a thin line. Natalie nodded approvingly. The more collected I became, the more reactive she got outside of therapy. I gave her nothing to work with. If she picked a fight, I disengaged. If she baited me, I changed the subject. I didn't sulk. I didn't accuse. I just started watching every strange moment, every contradiction. I logged it all. A private document, timestamps, notes. I recorded the night she slammed a door. Assuming I wasn't documenting anything, I logged the time. She left the mic running in the car, even while she was on the phone with her sister bragging about getting ahead of things legally. I saved that recording, too. Meanwhile, I followed Birgit's advice to the letter. She helped me start prepping my own. Divorce filing, this time with cause. Emotional manipulation, pre-litigation, ENT trapment, bad faith counseling. I wasn't filing yet, but I was getting ready. Then came the final piece. One afternoon I came home early. The apartment was quiet, except for the low hum of a conversation drifting in from the living room. AA was on the couch talking on speakerphone. She hadn't heard me come in. "I think he knows something's up," she said, her voice light, almost amused. "But I've got months of therapy transcripts," and his tone on record. "If I need to, I can push for temporary orders. Maybe even get them out of the apartment." My stomach tightened. Her friend responded, but I couldn't catch the words. AA laughed. "No, he hasn't flipped out yet, but I'm working on it." I felt something cold settle over me. I backed out quietly, as if I had never been there. Didn't make a sound. Didn't say a word that night. She acted as if nothing had happened at dinner. She asked, "Do you want me to book next week's session?" I swallowed my anger and smiled. Sure. Then I pulled out my phone. "Hi, Natalie. I'd like to schedule a solo appointment before our next joint session. I have some important context to share that I haven't felt safe discussing in front of a." Natalie confirmed within the hour. The next day I showed up early. The waiting room was empty, just the soft trickle of the little water feature in the corner, and the usual stack of unread wellness magazines. Natalie greeted me with the same warm, neutral smile she always gave both of us. This time I didn't return it. We sat down, I took a breath, exhaled slowly, and laid everything out like a report. No venting, no ranting, just facts. I started with the recording from AA's car, then the text blogs, debating questions, the shifts in tone, the email draft where she had coached Natalie on how to steer our sessions. Then I showed her the audio file, the one where AA told her friend she was building a case and working on pushing me out of the apartment. Natalie didn't say much, just took notes. Pin scratching lightly against the paper when I finished, she asked one question. What do you want me to do with this? I met her eyes. I'm not looking for an ally. Just transparency. She didn't react. Just kept listening. So, I continued. You've been operating with the truth. I thought you should have the other half before our final session. Because yes, I let AO book one last couple session. She picked the time, confirmed it. With me, sent me the calendar invite. Like we always did, I never planned to show up that morning before the appointment. My attorney sent Natalie a formal letter. It stated in clear legal terms that I would no longer be participating in couples counseling that I had documented evidence of. Coercion and manipulation that I was formally preparing to file for divorce. The letter included everything. A full timeline of AA's manipulation tactics, screenshots of her texts, her email draft coaching, Natalie on how to guide our sessions as certified, copy of the audio recording where she admitted to building a case against me, and a formal request for Natalie to provide a final neutral statement declining further involvement. Everything was sent before the session even began. So when AA walked into that therapy room, expecting a controlled confrontation, expecting her big breakthrough moment, maybe a staged meltdown, maybe some dramatic claim, she found an empty chair and Natalie sitting there with a sealed envelope in her lap. I don't know what was said in that room. I didn't need to. My phone was on silent. That whole hour when I finally turned it back on, I had 35 missed calls by the time AA got home. I was already gone. I hadn't just packed a bag. I had moved out. I left her the apartment, left the furniture on the kitchen counter. I placed a single typed letter, a clear statement that I was separating, that I would be proceeding with divorce through formal channels. Signed, dated no emotion. No grand declarations, just fax her first. Call came at 4:12 p.m. See. I watched the screen light up with her name, then let it ring. No voicemail. Just silence for a moment, then came the text. What is this? Why weren't you at therapy? Did you talk to Natalie? You can't just disappear like this then. Another a little longer. I thought we were trying. You don't just get to rewrite everything, which, to be clear, was exactly what she had been doing. I didn't respond the next day. Birgit, my attorney, forwarded me an email from AA's lawyer. No counterfiling, no threats, no demands, just a carefully worded request to explore a mutual dissolution agreement translation, as legal strategy was dead on arrival. The evidence I had handed over wasn't just good, it was devastating. She had been caught premeditating a false, emotional abuse narrative, caught attempting to influence a licensed therapist, caught collecting secret recordings, ones that when played in full showed her manipulation instead of mine. Now Natalie, to her credit, submitted a formal letter of withdrawal. From our case it was short, but clear. Due to ethical concerns regarding the therapeutic process, I will not be supporting either party in future legal proceedings. That part hit AA the hardest. She thought Natalie would be her witness. Thought she had primed the sessions enough, guided the narrative enough that Natalie would confirm her version of events instead. Natalie erased herself from the story completely. Then came the rest. The friend, the one AA had been bragging to on the phone, the one she thought was in her corner. She got a message from me, not an attack. No accusations, just the recording. Just the facts. She never replied, but a quick check showed that she had stopped following AA on Instagram, unfriended her on Facebook. No public statements, no drama, just quiet distance. Another friend, one of Aya's oldest, did text me, "Colin, I just want to say I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I don't know how it got to this point, but she got lost in the idea of control people. Started stepping back, not because I told them to, because they saw enough AA tried to backpedal. The long messages came first, filled with excuses, explanations, carefully chosen words that tried to paint her as someone who had just panicked. I didn't know how to fix things," she wrote. "I felt like I was losing control of my own narrative, and I tried to manage it before it got worse. Before it got worse, not before we got worse. At one point she asked if we could meet, just to talk, please. I didn't respond a few hours later. Another message this time. A photo. An old note I had written her years ago, just a scrap of paper. Something I barely remembered, but seeing my own handwriting the way I used to talk to her when I believed in our relationship hit me harder than I expected. I miss who we were back then. She said I did too, but that version of us only existed because I trusted her. And trust doesn't get a reboot in the end. I didn't need to expose her to the world. She did that herself. All I did was stop playing along the divorce, went through without a fight, no alimony, no drawn out court battle. I kept what was mine. She walked away with nothing she didn't already have. She told a few people she was blindsided, but the people who know me, they know I don't raise my voice, I don't disappear, and I don't leave unless I've already been pushed way too far. I didn't keep tabs on AAA after the divorce. There was no point. I had walked away, and that was supposed to be the end of it, but word still got around. At first, she did what a lot of people do after a breakup. She jumped back into dating, trying to prove to herself that she was still wanted, still desirable. She went out with men who fit a certain mold, successful, confident, established the kind of man who could offer her stability, a future, a replacement. But there was a problem. None of them wanted what she was looking for. They took her out, complimented her, spent nights with her pump and dump her when she brought up something serious when she hinted at commitment. They backed off. She cycled through men, each one seeming promising. At first only to leave her right where she started, alone. A friend of mine, someone who had mutuals with her, mentioned seeing her out one night, drinking more than she used to, laughing too loudly, clinging to a man who barely looked interested. She's trying too hard, he said, like she's got something to prove. Eventually the dating apps weren't enough. She quit her job, something about needing a fresh start, needing to be her own boss. A few weeks later I heard about the OnlyFans. At first the numbers were promising. Curiosity alone drove people to subscribe. Exes, acquaintances, men she had gone on a date or two with, all wanting to see what she had to offer. She leaned into it, posting frequently, trying to build a brand around herself. She bought better lighting, learned how to edit, tried to study the top creators, figuring out what made them successful. She played it up, tried to market herself, convinced herself that she could carve out of space and make a living on her own terms. But what she didn't realize was that this kind of business was ruthless. People weren't just paying for content. They were paying for fantasy, for the best of the best. She wasn't a perfect 10. And in that world, any less was replaceable. And in a space where competition was relentless, where younger, more attractive women flooded the platform every day, she started to fade into the background. The subscribers who joined it first, out of curiosity or support, didn't stay. New ones trickled in at a slower rate. The ones who did stick around expected more. More content, more interaction, more of her skin. And the harder she tried to keep up, the clearer it became that she was running in place, burning herself out for diminishing returns. She tried hard. More posts, more marketing, pushing boundaries she wouldn't have crossed before, but it wasn't enough. She wasn't enough. Soon the money stopped covering the bills, and bills don't wait. That's when she signed with an escort service. I don't know if it was desperation or just another way to convince herself she was still in control. Maybe both. She'd always been good at rationalizing things, spinning whatever situation she was in, so that it seemed like a choice. Like her choice. Maybe she told herself it was just another way to make money, a business decision. No different from anything else, but that didn't last long either. Clients weren't like the men from the apps who would not be able to touch her. These were desperate guys looking for their satisfaction, deranged and twisted at times. They were paying for something specific, and they had no illusions about it. They didn't care about her feelings, her past, her stories, her quest for control, or the version of herself she wanted them to see. They only cared about their desires, and they took what they wanted. She learned that fast, and in a brutal manner. The bookings weren't assistant. The demands were higher, and the moment she started to age out, just slightly, just enough, she wasn't the first pick anymore. Then she got sick. Not the kind of sick You can push through, not the kind that goes away on its own. Something she couldn't ignore, couldn't explain away. No matter how much she wanted to, an STD, maybe more than one. The kind of thing that forces a reality check before things could spiral. Even further, her parents stepped in. I don't know how they found out. Maybe she told them herself. Maybe someone else did. Maybe they just sensed it, the way parents sometimes do when their child is standing on the edge of something they can't handle. Either way, they came for her. They took her back home out of the city, away from everything. Away from the men, the noise, the failure. She didn't want to admit it wasn't a choice, not really. She didn't have options. Left, her only fans had dried up, the escort agency stopped calling. The bills didn't stop, but the money did. And when her health became a problem, she had nowhere else to turn, so she went back to where she started. Back to the childhood bedroom she once swore she'd never live in. Again, no apartment, no independence, no control, just her parents' rules, and a therapist she probably doesn't even want to see. Now she's in therapy, whether she actually believes in it or if it's just another thing she's doing because she has no choice. I don't know, maybe it's for show, a way to prove to her parents that she's trying. Maybe she actually wants to fix something, though. I'm not sure she even knows where to start. She goes twice a week. Her parents drive her there. She doesn't have a car anymore. She doesn't have much of anything anymore. No job, no income, no admirers lining up to tell her she's special. I heard she deleted all her social media. The girl who once built her identity on validation, on followers, on attention. Gone, wiped clean. Maybe she got tired of seeing the life she thought she deserved slip further and further away. Or maybe she just got tired of seeing herself. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.